is the most likely to challenge Donald Trump in the 2020 general election? And I'm talking about Democrats. Well, there is a website known as PredictIt. It's known as a political prediction stock market. And what people do is they predict, of course, who is the person who's most likely to challenge him, who is likely to be the nominee, Democratic nominee. And unsurprisingly, most people think that it's going to be Bernie Sanders.
It's unsurprising to us in Washington. They're like, oh, this website, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I like this and I hope that it sticks. We'll see how it goes, but just keep in mind that it's almost 2018. There's a lifetime before the next election. A million things could happen. I'm hoping that it's Bernie Sanders, but who knows? Who knows how things play out? We'll see.
So the odds makers are smart, though. I think they're right to have Kamala Harris at number 2 and Elizabeth Warren at 3. I think that's exactly right, because a lot of the establishment is coalescing the former Hillary staffers, the former Hillary donors around Kamala Harris. So it'll be between her and some progressives. And the rest of them are like establishment people. I happen to think they have no chance. Like Klobuchar is on the list. Really? Okay, look, I pick on her a little bit too much because it's not like there's anything particularly wrong with her. She's just a very standard Democrat,
That's what's wrong with her.
Yeah, and that's what the issue is. So Klobuchar hasn't electrified any progressives, as far as I know. She's not out there fighting at the forefront, and she might think that's unfair, but okay, where are you? Are you leading the charge on any of these giant issues? Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage, college for all. So like that's a name that's thrown in there by pundits that in my opinion has no bearing on reality. But when I read the story on QZ.com, okay, the media can't help themselves. So they're doing a story about how Bernie Sanders is the most likely to win according to the odds makers, right? But they say so far Senator Bernie Sanders is in the lead. Okay, now look, benign just by itself. But then they went at it another sentence a little bit later on that triggered me, if you will, to discuss it. They say, even so, no clear leader of the Democratic Party has emerged since the end of Barack Obama's second term and Hillary Clinton's defeat in 2016. What do you mean? The whole point of the article is showing who the clear leader is.
Right. I think, look, to be fair to the writer at Quartz, I think what was meant by that was, you haven't seen a Democrat go out and aggressively fight, like be kind of like the face of the opposition. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what they mean. I don't think they mean like, oh, there's no leader. No, I think they mean there's no one person that's like made a name for themselves after Trump's inauguration. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. We'll see.
There are two things I think will affect this list, and I think the next nominee may not be on this list. Governors, okay, there could be governors. It's a time when they could rise to the surface. A governor who's done a great job with his state, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing is, we don't know what condition the country's gonna be in at that point. Like we just did the tax cut, right? Now we know this, Anna, you're younger, you may not know this. Every tax cut is followed by a bailout. So we gotta see when do the banks go broke again, you know what I mean? And then do we need someone who knows how to fix that? Or we don't know what this idiot might do by then. It may be a war with North Korea that has started something, or you know what I mean. So it's a long way now. We don't know what the issues are going to be or how much cleanup the next president's going to have to do, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be like clean up on aisle United States. Yeah, that's going to be the next president's job.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So there's a ton of truth in there. So for example, if the banks have collapsed, Elizabeth Warren would be in great shape because she warned about the banks over and over again, and so.
So did Bernie, though.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. We don't even know who they're going to be running against. It could be Trump, it could be Pence. Or it could be that Trump left office, Pence has been president for 2 years, but it's a disaster. And then we've got a primary on the Republican side, and Rubio's running and everybody else is running. So all of those wild scenarios are possible. If we're in the middle of war, are we going to want to go for someone who has more defense policy credentials, or go in the opposite direction and go, we told you not to go into war, let's finally have a peace president rather than a war president, right? Yeah. So all those, and look, I think there are some great progressive leaders that never get any airtime that are not on this list, and I'm sure that media would laugh and think, oh, there's no way, but there's definitely a way. So Nina Turner's not on the list. So if Bernie runs, then allies like Nina Turner likely will not run. Very, very, very likely. I'm just guessing from the outside, right? But if Bernie doesn't run, then this list is all wrong. You're gonna have a lot of progressives rise up. The media will give them no chance, but the online community and real voters, they're dying for a change. So it won't be the regular old folks.
I just wanted to make one other comment about Bernie that, it's my personal experience, personal opinion. But sometimes, not sometimes, every time you're talking to a politician, like the camera comes on and even if they're being genuine in what they're saying, they're on. You know what I mean? Like there's a certain personality that comes on for the cameras. And I was lucky enough to do a panel with Bernie in DC recently, and then also a one-on-one interview with Bernie recently, which we're gonna publish in January, early January. And no, the dude's genuine. Like what you see is what you get. Camera comes on, he's the same exact person. And there's something about that just gives you hope. Like, every time I've talked to him, right before I feel like crap, I'm like sad and depressed. I've just read the news. I feel like there's no hope. And then after talking to him, I'm like, oh my God, there's hope. So that's the kind of feeling he gives me, and I imagine a lot of other people feel the same way.
All right, let's have fun. Let me just do my usual set of predictions.
Oh, wait a minute. Did we not mention The Rock?
Is The Rock in here?
Apparently
No,
The Rock
is not in
said that he's going to win 2020. So he should be on there. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never know. It's a topsy-turvy world.
Why? You're laughing. You're laughing. This is America. We are that stupid. The Rock has a legitimate chance to be president in 2020.
Oprah's not on the list. Oprah would have a chance.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Right.
Don't underestimate us.
Okay. All that being said, if Bernie runs, Bernie wins. I know the media thinks no way, etc. But he has, not only does he have huge support among progressives, but now the majority of the Democratic Party is completely on his side. Over 80% of Democrats approve of Bernie Sanders. And the third thing that they're undercounting completely is the only reason Hillary Clinton won as Bernie closed a 60-point lead in 1 year was name recognition. Now, Bernie has the name recognition. So he'll be incredibly hard to compete with. So they got all their chips, or a lot of their chips, in Kamala Harris, and bless her heart, and she's an interesting person, but she don't have anywhere near the name recognition of Bernie Sanders. For once, if Bernie runs, the establishment would actually be behind the 8 ball. They'd be the underdogs, and wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah. And I'll add one super last prediction. If Bernie doesn't run and someone like Nina Turner runs, no, let's just say Nina Turner, okay? She's the head of Our Revolution, if you don't know. That was Bernie's group. She would have 100 times better chance of winning than Amy Klobuchar. And it's no knock on Amy Klobuchar. She's just a regular old senator, but only people on TV are interested in her. Nina would energize people 1,000 times more. She has a way better chance than any of these regular senators do.
Well, I think it's too early for Kamala Harris. But when you talk name recognition, The Rock. Just saying, just saying.
Just going back to The Rock.
America knows The Rock. Dwayne Johnson, not so much, but The Rock.
Yes.
You just watched the video by the Young Turks, home of the revolution. If you'd like to get a lot more than that, get the full show by becoming a member. tytnetwork.com/join.